Before it's too late, after 73, there are things you should never say, never do, and never go near. Friends, if you're over 70, you already know life feels different now. The years don't stretch the way they used to. Days move faster, the people around you change, and your own body reminds you daily that every choice carries more weight than before. And here's the truth. At this stage, life is not just about stacking on birthdays. It's about putting real life into the years you still have. That's why this message matters so much. Because while the world tells you to keep going at any cost, what truly matters is protecting your health, guarding your happiness, and holding on to your dignity. So today, I'm going to share 3 powerful lessons, things you should never say, never do, and places you should never go. Each one has the power to quietly chip away at your spirit if you let it. And I'm not going to reveal them in the usual order. I'll begin with the one most people brush aside, then move to one that strikes deeply and personally, and end with the most important truth of all, the one you need to hear before it's too late. If this message resonates with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because together, we can make these years not just longer, but better. First, though it's third on the list, it's the one I want you to hear right now. Never go where your spirit feels small. At this stage of life, energy is precious. You can't afford to waste it in places that shrink your soul, and you know exactly what I mean. It might be a relative's house where you're treated like a burden. It might be a social group where the main pastime is gossiping, complaining, and tearing others down. It might even be a community you've belonged to for decades, one that once felt like home but now leaves you feeling invisible. Here's the key. Every time you walk away from those places, you don't feel nourished. You feel drained. You don't feel stronger. You feel smaller. And the truth is, at 70 or beyond, the cost of that drain is too high. When you were younger, you probably endured it. You kept the peace. You stayed quiet for appearances. You told yourself you were obligated. But now, the math has changed. Every day you spend in an environment that steals your joy is a day you cannot get back. There are no refunds, no exchanges. And the cruelest part is, you're trading irreplaceable time for misery. Your surroundings shape your spirit, and your spirit shapes your health. This isn't just poetry, it's science. Research shows that older adults who maintain positive social environments actually live longer, recover faster from illness, and enjoy sharper memory. Your body and mind respond to the energy you allow around you. Walk into a room filled with bitterness, and your blood pressure rises. Spend an afternoon with people who value you, and your heart literally relaxes. Think about that for a second. The spaces you choose aren't neutral. They're either adding days to your life or quietly subtracting them. Which side do you want to be on? So here's the invitation. Before it's too late, step away from the places that dim your soul. Leave the gatherings where you feel dismissed. Excuse yourself from the rooms where you're nothing more than background noise. You don't owe anyone your presence if that presence costs you peace. Instead, seek out spaces where you feel seen, valued, and alive. That could be a book club that sparks laughter, a cafe where the barista remembers your name, a walking group where conversations feel light and genuine, or even just your own porch where the sun hits your face and the silence feels like freedom instead of loneliness. You're not being selfish when you choose those spaces, you're being wise. You're protecting the most important resource you still have, your spirit. Because once your spirit weakens, everything else follows. But when your spirit is strong, the rest of you, mind, body, and heart, has a fighting chance to stay strong too. So let me say it one more time. Never go where your spirit feels small. Your days are too precious, your energy too rare, your joy too valuable. Don't squander them in places that don't honor you. Go where your presence is celebrated, not tolerated. Go where you feel fully alive, And in doing so, you'll add not just years to your life, but life to your years. Next, the second on the list. Never do what breaks your body just to please other people. Think about it. You've spent decades working, serving, helping, lifting, carrying, and sacrificing. You've already paid your dues. You've already carried the weight of families, jobs, responsibilities, and obligations. At this stage of life, the worst mistake you could make is to ignore your body's signals just because you don't want to inconvenience someone else. Maybe it looks like hauling heavy grocery bags into the house because you don't want to ask your kids for help. Maybe it's staying on your feet for hours at a family gathering, even though your back is screaming, because you don't want anyone to think you're lazy. Maybe it's sitting down to a plate of food you know will upset your stomach simply because it was offered with love and you don't want to offend. Let me tell you something important. Your body is your only permanent home. You don't get to trade it in for a newer model. And after 70, when you break it, recovery doesn't come easy. Healing is slower, harder, and sometimes impossible. What might have been a quick bounce back in your 30s or 40s can now spiral into months of pain or even permanent loss of independence. That's why you cannot afford to keep saying yes when your body is screaming no. Every time you ignore the signals, every time you push past the pain to keep up appearances, you're gambling with the very thing that allows you to keep living life on your terms. Here's the truth. People who genuinely love you will respect your limits. They'll understand when you say, "I can't carry that." They'll grab a chair for you when you need to sit down. They'll smile when you politely refuse food that doesn't agree with you. And those who don't respect your limits, they don't deserve to decide how you live, because they're not the ones who pay the price. You are. And please remember this. You are not a burden for protecting your health. You are wise. You are strong enough to say no to the things that damage you, and in doing so, you are saying yes to something far greater. Every no to lifting what's too heavy is a yes to more days of walking without pain. Every no to standing when you need rest is a yes to enjoying the moments that really matter. Every no to food that harms you is a yes to more mornings where you wake up feeling well, alert, and ready to face the day. Think of it as choosing long-term independence over short-term approval, choosing dignity over discomfort, choosing life over appearances. That's not selfish, it's smart, it's survival. So, the next time you're tempted to ignore your body for the sake of pleasing someone else, pause. Ask yourself, what am I really trading here? Is this worth days of recovery? Is this worth risking my mobility, my health, or my peace of mind? 9 times out of 10, the answer will be no. Protect your body like the treasure it is, because it's not weakness to honor your limits. It's strength. And every time you choose wisely, you buy yourself more of what truly matters. More days of independence, more laughter, and more mornings where you wake without pain. If you find this content inspiring and it motivates you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. Finally, the most important one. It's the first in meaning, but the last I want to share with you. Never speak words that shut your own doors to life. At 70 and beyond, your words aren't just casual sounds floating into the air. They're declarations, statements of belief that your mind, your body, and your spirit quietly absorb. Every phrase you repeat becomes a seed planted deep inside. And whether those seeds grow into flowers or weeds depends entirely on what you choose to say. Think about it. When you tell yourself, "I'm too old for that," your brain believes you. It adjusts, pulls back, and no longer looks for solutions. When you sigh and say, "It's too late for me," your heart slows down its dreams, and the spark that once fueled you dims. And when you whisper, "I can't," your body listens. Muscles stop pushing, energy stops flowing, and possibilities quietly retreat. But here's the beautiful truth. The opposite is also true. I've seen people in their 90s, not 70s, not 80s, but 90s, learn brand new skills, travel to countries they'd never stepped foot in, and pick up hobbies they once thought were out of reach. And do you know their secret? It wasn't that they had more energy, or fewer aches, or easier circumstances. Their secret was simply that they never told themselves they couldn't. The most dangerous prison isn't one with bars or locked gates. It's the one built out of your own words. The quiet sentences you repeat until they form invisible walls around you. Words like, "I'm done," or "I'll just sit this out," or "That's not for people my age." Each one shuts a door that could have opened. Each one denies you a chance to live a little more fully. So what if, instead of closing those doors, you opened them? What if, instead of speaking defeat, you spoke possibility? Try saying, "I'm still learning," or "I'm willing to try," or even, "My best days can still be ahead." These aren't empty slogans. Science backs this up. Studies show that optimism isn't just a feel-good attitude. It improves heart health, strengthens the immune system, lowers stress, and even increases lifespan. In other words, the words you say out loud and in your head directly shape the length and quality of your life. So guard your language as carefully as you guard your health. Replace "I can't" with "I'll try." Swap "I'm too old" for "I'm still here." Trade "it's too late" for "today is just the right time." Because every sentence you speak is a seed, and you get to choose whether you're planting weeds that choke your spirit or flowers that brighten your path. At this age, your days are too valuable to waste on self-defeating words. Choose ones that lift you. Choose ones that keep your heart curious and your mind awake. Choose words that open doors, not slam them shut. Because here's the truth. You are not finished. You are not past your usefulness. You are not too late. You are still alive. And as long as you are alive, there are still new seeds to plant, still new doors to walk through, still new moments waiting to be lived. Friends, if you've been following along, you've probably noticed something. Each of these 3 warnings, never go where your spirit feels small, never do what breaks your body, and never say words that close your own doors, is about one thing: protection. Protection of the spirit, the body, and the mind. Because here's the truth. After 70, every single day is a precious page in the final chapters of your story. And you don't want those pages weighed down with regret about where you went, what you did, or what you said. Your spirit deserves places that lift it up, not places that drain it. Your body deserves care, not constant sacrifice. And your mind deserves words that open possibilities, not words that shut them down. Think of it this way. Your spirit, your body, and your mind are the 3 pillars holding up the rest of your life. When one is weakened, the others feel it too. Protect all 3, and the roof over your life remains steady. Before we close, let me share a story that has stayed with me for years. A few years back, I met an 82-year-old woman named Margaret. At first glance, she looked like many women her age. Bright eyes, gentle smile, a little stooped from years of carrying too much for others. But what she told me carried more weight than her posture ever could. She said that for most of her adult life, she attended the same weekly group of friends. Same day, same time, same living room, and yet, every single week, she walked out of that house feeling smaller. Why? Because the conversations were always heavy. Who was sick? Who had failed? Who had disappointed? Who had let someone down? Every gathering was a chorus of complaints, and little by little, those words pressed on her spirit. For decades, she endured it, out of habit, out of obligation, out of fear of walking away. But then one day, she decided she'd had enough. She told herself, "I can't spend another afternoon feeling worse than when I walked in." So she made a choice. Instead of going to that group, she signed up for a beginner's painting class at the local community center. She hadn't held a brush since childhood. On her first day, she confessed she was nervous. "I'm too old for this," she whispered under her breath. But her teacher, a man in his 60s, overheard her. He smiled and said something she'll never forget. "You're not too old. You're just in time." 3 years later, Margaret's paintings were hanging in her town library. Bright colors, bold strokes, filled with a joy she thought she had lost long ago. When I asked her how she felt about the decision to leave her old group behind, she said something that broke my heart a little. "I wish I had walked away 20 years earlier." Her story is a reminder that it's never too late to protect yourself. Never too late to choose places that give you life instead of stealing it. Never too late to listen to your body's wisdom. Never too late to replace limiting words with ones that keep you open, curious, and alive. So friends, as you write these last chapters of your story, make them strong. Protect your spirit. Protect your body. Protect your mind. The world may tell you your best years are behind you, but as Margaret proved, sometimes your best years begin the moment you finally decide to protect yourself. When we reach this stage of life, it's tempting to think the story is already written. The early chapters are filled with youth, the middle chapters with work and family, and now we convince ourselves that the closing pages are already outlined. But let me give you a different image. Imagine your life as an open book, and even if you are in what might be called the final chapters, those pages are still blank. They are waiting for you. And the ink you choose, the choices you make about your spirit, your body, and your words, determines whether those pages will be filled with dull gray lines or with bold colors that light up the ending. This is why protecting yourself matters so deeply. When you guard your spirit from toxic places, you keep the story from being overshadowed by bitterness. When you honor your body's limits, you ensure your chapters don't collapse under unnecessary pain. When you choose uplifting words instead of limiting ones, you give your narrative hope instead of defeat. Protection isn't about hiding. It's about keeping your pages open, ready to receive what's still possible. Think of it this way. If your book were handed to someone else to read, what would you want them to see in these last chapters? Would you want them to see resignation or resilience? Would you want them to see someone who let their story fade quietly, or someone who kept writing with courage until the very last page? The answer is yours to create. And here's the part that might surprise you. Your story isn't just for you. Every day you live, you are leaving a record, an example, for others. When you choose to step away from draining environments, you show younger generations that it is never too late to demand respect and peace. When you say no to habits that harm your body, you prove that self-care is not selfish, it is wisdom. And when you replace words of limitation with words of possibility, you teach anyone listening, children, grandchildren, even strangers, that hope has no expiration date. You may not realize it, but people are always watching. A granddaughter notices the way you still laugh, even after loss. A neighbor sees you walking each morning, and it nudges them to care for their own health. A friend marvels that you started painting or writing or gardening at an age when many have given up, and they begin to wonder if maybe they can start again too. Your life right now is more than a private story. It's a lighthouse, guiding others who are quietly searching for courage. And so, while these pages may feel like the end of the book, they carry an unexpected power. Endings have the ability to shape everything that came before. A weak ending can make a whole story feel disappointing, but a strong, vibrant ending? It can redeem every hard chapter, illuminate every sacrifice, and leave the reader inspired long after the book is closed. That's why it matters to keep writing with intention. Protect your spirit, protect your body, protect your words, not only for your own well-being, but because your story is part of a greater story. Every decision you make adds to a legacy, one that stretches beyond you and into the lives of those who come after. So, as you turn these last pages, don't see them as empty time to be endured. See them as blank pages waiting for your hand. Write them with joy. Write them with courage. Write them with the confidence that even here, even now, there are new beginnings to be found. And remember, the book is still open, the story is still unfolding, and you have the pen. After thinking about the chapters we still have left to write, there's another truth worth holding close. The joy that makes these chapters meaningful doesn't always come from grand adventures or dramatic milestones. More often, it comes from the small, almost ordinary moments, the little treasures we sometimes overlook. Too many people believe that in order to feel alive, they need something big, a cruise, a cross-country trip, or a bucket list that drains their savings. And yes, those things can be wonderful. But the reality is that most of life isn't made up of mountaintop moments. Most of life is lived in the valleys, in the everyday rhythm of hours and days. That's why the ability to find beauty in small joys is one of the greatest skills you can carry into your later years. Think about it. A flower blooming just outside your window, the warmth of a cup of tea in your hands on a chilly morning, the sound of a favorite song you haven't heard in years, drifting through the room. These are not dramatic events, but they can be pure gold when you pause to notice them. They remind you that joy is not about scale, it's about attention. And here's the key. When you train yourself to notice small joys, you build a steady reservoir of gratitude. Instead of waiting for the next big thing to feel happy, you create a rhythm of contentment that carries you day by day. This doesn't mean you stop dreaming or stop reaching for more. It simply means you no longer tie your happiness to rare occasions. You discover it in the simple, repeatable, everyday gifts life offers freely. There's another benefit, too. Small joys are accessible, no matter your circumstances. You don't need perfect health, endless money, or constant company to notice sunlight through the curtains or the laughter of a child passing by. These are joys that belong to anyone willing to slow down enough to see them. And when you share this outlook with others, children, grandchildren, neighbors, you pass on more than advice. You pass on a way of living. They see you smile at the scent of fresh bread or pause to admire the colors of a sunset, and it teaches them something priceless. Happiness is available here and now. So as you move forward, remember this. Your life doesn't have to be measured only in milestones. It can be measured in moments. Tiny, beautiful, everyday moments that turn ordinary days into extraordinary ones. You don't need the world's approval to treasure them. You only need your own permission. Because sometimes the flower on the porch, the tea in your cup, or the music in your room is not just background. It's the heartbeat of a life still worth celebrating. And so, as we close this reflection, let's not forget that the measure of a life well lived is not only found in grand gestures or long journeys, but in the tender weight of small joys. A flower leaning toward the sun, the quiet steam curling from a morning cup, the way a familiar melody can reach into your chest and remind you that you are still alive. These are not little things. They are treasures. They are proof that meaning is woven into the ordinary, waiting for you to notice. Every time you choose to pause, every time you let yourself feel gratitude for something simple, you are writing beauty into your final chapters. And those chapters are not written for you alone. They become whispers for others, reminders to your children, your neighbors, even strangers, that joy does not hide in the distance. It lives close by, here and now, within reach of anyone who dares to see it. So perhaps the invitation is this. Keep your eyes open, keep your heart tuned, and let the smallest of gifts remind you that your story is not finished. The book is still open, the ink still flowing, and the page before you waits. If these words stirred something in you, carry them forward. Let them echo. And if you wish to walk further with me, through more pages, more questions, more quiet revelations, you already know the doors are here. They are called like, share, and subscribe. Step through, and let's keep discovering together.